You've come to the right place if you're looking to create, launch, and scale a high-value online training program. I'm your guide, Chris Badgett. I'm the co-founder of LifterLMS, the most powerful learning management system for WordPress. Stay to the end. I've got something special for you. Enjoy the show. Hello and welcome back to another episode of LMS Cast. I'm joined by a special guest today. Her name is Emily Middleton. She's from WP Course Guide. You can find that at wpcourseguide.com. Emily runs an agency. She specializes in a lot of LMS related work. She's been around the block for about a decade, maybe more. I don't know. It's been a long time. So there's tons of experience here. One of the things that Emily does differently is how she runs her agency and how she works with clients. We're going to start with that. But first, welcome back on the show, Emily.
Thank you for having me, Chris. I'm happy to be here.
Let's start with WP Course Guide. I've always been impressed with how you work with clients. For example, Emily also does some work directly with LifterLMS and some of our live calls like the Office Hours Mastermind that Universe Bundle and Hire people get access to for a weekly Office Hours Mastermind, as well as our Ask Us Anything calls, which happen weekly. But one time we were getting together for a Zoom meeting, and you were actually at one of your agency clients' place, which was really interesting. I've seen that before where you pop up on the radar and you're like hanging out with LifterLMS users and clients of WP Course Guide. Tell us your approach to working with people and how you perhaps approach it a little differently than other freelancers or agencies when they work with clients.
Thank you. That's a really good question. I think it's a funny thing that I do that's bleeding my personality into my business and part of how I run things. I do business on a very personal level, and I think the way I was introed to business was on a very personal level. So my mother did some work with LifterLMS a long time ago, like accounting work and client management work when LifterLMS was an agency, right, doing code box stuff, and then the LifterLMS product launched. My mom was around at the time, and I think, Chris, you might have found her on hiremymom.com, which is funny because you hired my mom there. And there was a little bit of nepotism, but I feel like I've proved myself because I really embraced Lifter, and you as a mentor helped me with like my entrepreneurial journey. Growing up through LifterLMS was like a family to me, and my granddad, who inspired me to be an entrepreneur in the first place, was a family member. And having that sense of family in business from the beginning, as I was a kid being influenced by my entrepreneurial grandfather, who was bringing me in on his projects and his random apps and his ideas, integrating me however he could. And then having this sort of freelancer culture with my mother as a peer who was like recommending work to me. And I remember that I started with LifterLMS on the LMS cast. So this podcast we're on now, I would write the summaries and the tweets and all the kind of summative text that went along with the episode. And that was like my integration was as a young person, I had that opportunity to engage with Lifter as a form of online education, but I was also educating myself at the same time. And there was a sense of familial nature because you were my mentor and my mom did some work with the business. And so I treat that family culture carrying forward into the clients I have today. I'm friends with most of my clients. I just had a client die, the first client who's ever died. And it really struck me. I remember seeing the email and then falling apart in the car. I take all the work I do super personally, and that's why you'll find me popping up at clients' houses, going out, doing cool stuff, partying, whatever we do, building LMSs.
Yeah, it's important to remember the humans on the internet behind the website, behind the companies, behind the support, tech support. You know, a client may have goals and dreams, and it's like challenging the project you're working on, but there's still a human there. and with emotions and hopes and dreams and all that stuff. So it's like holistic medicine. You know, treat the whole thing, not just one part. There's lots of different ways to run a agency, and it can be very transactional with like minimal communication, but that's not very holistic. And the way you do it adds a lot of the humanity back into the types of work we do online, which is part of what gets lost, which is part of what we try to do at LifterLMS in terms of how we build the software. We're trying to connect the humans, not just facilitate transactions and content delivery. Things like the community aspects of Lifter or the coaching aspects of the software and things like that. So that's super cool. The other thing you do, which I find super fascinating, and it's the way I would want to be treated as a client. I don't want to just be treated as a client. I want to be treated as a collaborator. And I don't just want to delegate work to an agency or a freelancer. I want to collaborate with them. Because like I may have my expertise, you have yours. Let's mash them together and see what happens. And if all that happens is you sign a contract and then you ask for the content and then you deliver the website, there's very little collaboration there. So tell us about the way you like to collaborate. And I've also seen you do it at speed. A lot of freelancers and agencies don't like to get on the phone or the Zoom with clients because it can feel time consuming. But when you get on a Zoom with a client, you're actually creating work product at the same time, working way faster than a bunch of emails back and forth and time delays. So tell us about that.
Yeah, I do a lot of work with clients on Zoom. I created this system somewhat out of necessity, and for me, it works really well because I have ADHD. I struggle with reading things. I'm dyslexic, and so when I'm hit with an email that's multiple paragraphs, I honestly get overwhelmed. And so, if I'm going to be handling emails, I might need someone to help me on my team, or I might need to take longer amounts of time to read it. So for me, it's much faster to have a conversation over Zoom. I think you, as the audience members, might get an impression. I talk and think like very quickly. I'm just like, my mind's all over the place. And I liked what you said about a holistic approach. That's what I say in my business all the time is that we might be dealing with a problem, but that problem could be a symptom of a larger issue. And so when we're on Zoom, when we're communicating, we can sense more about what people are saying, the confidence in their voice. Maybe they're frustrated about a certain issue. I can pick up more on tone. I can pick up more on what people are going through as a business challenge. I think a lot of business owners, especially the ones who are stressed enough to hire someone to help them in the capacity, I often help people like a medical, like a firefighter or coming in to be a medic on a website. That's often my role at projects. And that can be really stressful when you're like, when you need a firefighter to come help fix your WordPress website, you are probably stressed because something has blown up or you want to implement something for your business. You need to make something work. It can sometimes be stressful. And so when we're stressed, we often lock in on problems that might not be exactly the right solution. And when we communicate over Zoom, when we can get online, not only does it help me with my process of understanding and helping people and showing kind of the love that I have for my business, my clients, and the whole ecosystem that comes across, but I can also get the light in the client's eyes. Like we can figure out like what's going on in the business, like where are you struggling, where are you successful. I have gotten so much help created for clients when in passing they make a sigh or a comment about, oh God, I got to do all this marketing stuff now. Or I am really dreading doing this. They just make like a passing comment about something. And then that opens up a whole door where we can say, like, why are you dreading this issue? What specifically about it are you stuck with? How long have you been stuck with this problem? And what support do you feel like if you could just press a magic button and have support in this area, what would that support look like? We can ask questions like that if we're live on Zoom. And it really makes like a friends and family kind of vibe, which is my thing.
Yeah, I totally get it. And let's park for a second on ADHD.
Yeah.
I think it's actually, since we're talking so much about family here, my grandfather one, it takes all kinds to make a world, right? And he was like a manager or executive guy running a mill. But that comment always stuck with me. So when you think about, there's actually a ton of people that have ADHD. It's very common. And if you don't have ADHD, it may feel like different or uncomfortable to work with somebody with ADHD as an example. But with everything as in life, it's a double-edged sword. There's also strengths to it. So one of the things I've noticed with working with you is you're super fast and you're very in the present moment, right? Which is super powerful. So we could be having a conversation. I could have a conversation with you while another part of your brain is like working on some project that we're working on together. And then this other thing comes up and you're just able to adapt like so fast. And you're also in tune with, like you said, the nuances of, I just know in collaborating with you that you don't miss much. Like ADHD doesn't mean I'm not paying attention. It just means I spread my attention around to lots of places. And by the way, my attention is very open and like receptive, which creates like really strong collaboration, particularly when you're working with a client and you don't live in their and breathe their industry, but you're open and you're listening and you want to combine your skills with their industry and their goals and stuff. It's pretty cool. See, I've seen that in action. So good on you for that.
Thank you.
Since it comes up a lot, it's just, I have to ask, what's your current approach to using AI in the work you do? You write code, you create content, you have to communicate with people and do emails and stuff. There's graphic design, which you do a lot of. What's your AI tips or things you do these days?
That's a good question. And I want to thank you for what you said about the holistic approach and how the ADHD can be a superpower. I think a lot of times people feel like they're at a detriment for it, but it can work for you. But AI, that's another good use of ADHD. If you struggle to focus, if you struggle to make task lists, whatever you specifically struggle with, AI can be a consultant in your business. Obviously, the information AI is giving back to you has come back with questionable quality at 80% at best with like accuracies and stuff. So you want to use AI in intelligent ways. But I did create a video, and one of my most popular videos as of late was how to code with AI. And I've taken the approach recently of I can't stop people from coding with AI. I can just help them be safe about how they're coding with AI. It would be great if we're like, hey, code that AI writes, it could potentially have issues. It could break other parts of your website. And at worst, it could potentially have malware style practices on your own website. It can be bad to create code with AI and just slap it onto your website, but people are going to be doing it anyway. It's an efficient solution. It's an efficient tool, but with great power comes great responsibility. And at present, it feels a little bit dangerous. So let's make it safer. And so a lot of what I've been doing with AI is educating my clients on prompting. Specifically, how can we tell AI what its role is? How can we tell AI what its limits are? How can we help AI help us understand our own problem? So when it comes to coding with AI, when it comes to developing marketing messages with AI, sometimes I will ask AI for copy because it's really easy for AI to help inspire getting the juices flowing and saying, give me 10 to 20 calls to action. I'm creating a button for my homepage, and this is my business. This is the product that we're offering. We have a free lead magnet option for people to get involved with our organization with just an email, but we also have a paid offering. I want you to give me 10 options for what calls to action on my homepage could be, and I really want them to be compelling to get people to click that button. AI will generate you a list of 10 things. You can tell it, hey, this is my favorite one of the list that you had. Can you give me 10 more like it? With just that kind of prompting around copywriting, you can already improve the process if you're just trying to come up with copy out of your own mind. Oftentimes, people who are using LMSs or coming online are technical experts in their field. and sometimes they're even teachers. But when you're online, you're in this crazy ecosystem of so many options for people to learn. They could go to YouTube, they could buy someone else's course. Maybe your course doesn't even come up page one on Google. So when we're fortunate enough to have someone land on our page, we really need to sell them on taking some action at that point. AI can help you make copy, AI can help you with code, but you got to make sure your copy's not bland. You got to make sure your code doesn't blow up your website. You have to be able to structure the conversation with AI as if it's like a super powerful child. It doesn't really know what it's going to break or how not to do things, but what it does know is a very powerful like distillation tool of what information it can feed back to you. So I it was a little bit of a rambling answer, but does that answer your question?
That's awesome. And just to reinforce what Emily's saying, if you go look at the title of this episode, that was written by AI. I will choose it. I will give it some ideas, and I do exactly what you said. I'm like, okay, we talked about this and this. I need some engaging podcast titles that would make somebody interested about the content to click and listen to the episode on Spotify or wherever. And it'll give me 10. And oftentimes I still have to tweak like, oh, this is 95% perfect, but I'm changing this word to that word. It's good to go. And it's good. It's better than what I would have done by myself, but I'm not just saying, hey, just choose one for me and that sort of thing. Let's talk about web hosting a little bit. As an agency, as a freelancer, when you work with clients, a lot of times you hit like hosting problems. We run into that at LifterLMS because it's a more heavy, complex piece of software, requires decent resources. Successful LMS sites require really good hosting for a lot of different reasons. And over time, you start seeing patterns of like, oh, this person's on this host and we're having problems. But anyways, I know you've run into that as an agency. Like, what are the web hosts that you really love these days? And I know it's not an exhaustive list. There's so many web hosts out there. There's a lot of great ones. But which ones do you love working with? If you had a client who doesn't already have something yet, and let's say they already have a functioning business and they're not worried about managed WordPress pricing, which is more than like the bargain basement, where would you send them to host their LMS website? This episode of LMS Cast is brought to you by Pop-Up Maker, the most powerful, trusted pop-up solution for WordPress. Whether you're selling online courses or memberships, Pop-Up Maker helps you grow your email list, boost sales conversions, and engage your visitors with highly customizable pop-ups. Imagine creating custom opt-ins, announcements, and promotions that actually convert. I personally use Pop-Up Maker on my LifterLMS websites for lead magnet opt-ins, cart abandonment, upsells, downsells, and guiding users to helpful content. Pop-Up Maker is an essential tool for growing my email list and making more money online through my website. Ready to take your website to the next level? Head on over to wppopupmaker.com/LMScast and save 15% on your order. Discount automatically applies when you visit through that link. Pop-Up Maker also has an awesome free version, so you can just use that as well. Go to wppopupmaker.com/LMScast and save 15% off your order, or get started with the free version now. Get more leads and sales on your website with Pop-Up Maker today. Now back to the episode.
That's a great question. I usually send my clients to for different size projects. I'll recommend different hosting. A lot of clients I've been sending to Tangible XP lately because Gabriel shows up on our office hours calls. And so when you have a CEO of a hosting company who regularly comes to the LifterLMS office hours call, you know that LifterLMS is going to be supported as a host there. And Gabriel's been featured on the LMS cast, but so is Tom Finelli from Convesio, right? And So there's a lot of other great hosts on the Lifter LMS recommended host list, and I wouldn't blame you for going with any of them. I have some posts on my website about my experiences with certain web hosts and which ones are often more difficult. I can say avoid HostGator. I can say that. Don't, if you're on HostGator, you want to probably get off HostGator if you're doing LMS specifically. Like, it's a complicated type of plugin that requires a lot of resources. People are logging in, content's changing based on whether you're logged in, logged out. There's access restriction, there's purchases happening. 1 second, you're just a prospect who's on the checkout page. The next second, you're a student who's logged in and taking a course. We need a web host that can support this more fluid functionality that Lifter LMS wants to offer on the website. And that's essential for us. And so I've been sending people the Tangible XP, WP Engine, or the Lifter LMS recommended host list because that list does change. And you can't really go wrong in that area. I've just noticed that my customers on Tangible XP, I've never had a single complaint. And that it's like Lifter LMS specific hosting. It's not WordPress managed hosting. It's like Lifter LMS. And I know there's different levels of hosting. Like WP Tonic is Kurt and Jonathan, who you may have seen in the podcast ecosystem. If you're watching this, they do concierge hosting, very hands-on, but a lot of options out there.
Let's talk about WordPress itself. WordPress has a challenge of younger people coming in. I'm of the belief that the websites and WordPress is not dead. It's literally 50% of the websites on the internet, and people use websites all the time. Even AI, yeah, it's cool where it's trained on a lot of websites, many of them WordPress. It reminds me of the early days of internet marketing when people would say, email is dead. Email has never died. It is still alive and it's changed. It's evolved. People use it differently. It's harder to get people to open. People are overwhelmed in their inbox and things like that. So that changes, but email will never die, at least not anytime soon. I would say the same thing about websites and WordPress as an example. It is sad to me that I don't see as many younger people getting into building websites. And to their credit, there's social media has exploded. I mean, TikTok didn't exist like 5 years ago or 4 years ago, whatever it was. Like a lot of people spend a lot of time on TikTok, but when they need to go buy something, they're still going to end up on a website. There's the TikTok shop, but they're either going to be on the TikTok shop, Amazon.com, a Shopify store, or a WooCommerce, or some other. Lifter has e-commerce. Like people use websites all the time. But for a vibrant WordPress ecosystem, it's good for younger folks to get in. You're a little bit older, I think, than half my age, and you're very much involved in WordPress, partially because of your family. So you just got into it very early on and stayed with it, which I commend you for. A lot of great things happen by just staying the course. You know what I mean? And it's easy. There's also a question in there, like, how does somebody with ADHD stay the course for a decade? Like, why is it? So I'm painting a lot of broad questions, but what do you particularly love about WordPress and why have you stayed the course? And what are some younger people, I'm thinking like back in my day or whatever, now I'm sounding like an old person. Other 15-year-olds were like building websites and like having fun and writing HTML and CSS and stuff like that. Or maybe it's a thing where you're a little bit older, like you're getting into your career and you're like, you start realizing you need a website for yourself. And then somebody else is like, hey, can you build me one of those and stuff like that. But tell me about your take on WordPress and staying with it.
I like your comparison to social media. I think there's a lot of opportunities out there, especially for young people, to get engaged with social media and then get engaged with Wix or Shopify, which are doing like a lot of marketing on social media, a lot of marketing paying YouTubers to talk about Wix or Squarespace. So when I talk to young people, Wix and Squarespace are the ones that come up as far as CMSs. WordPress doesn't really come up for younger people. and Shopify, of course. But I would say WordPress not doing the level of entry level marketing. I don't quite know how to categorize what Wix and
Brand
Squarespace are doing.
awareness, like
Brand awareness.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like brand awareness, but even when you open the product, if you like open the box. So when you open your WordPress website for the first time, which everyone listening to this podcast has probably opened a WordPress website for the first time. And if they haven't yet, they're going too soon. And what they're going to see is like a blog platform. Hey, this is what you're going to create. It's like, look, we got a first blog post for you. That's awesome. It's like, where do you go from there if you're not trying to create a blog platform? If you're trying to go with like an LMS, if you're trying to create an e-commerce store, you are going to have to go out of your way to find WooCommerce. You're going to have to go out of your way to find Fluent Cart. You're going to have to find Lifter. You're going to have to find your LMS tool. Or you're going to have to be looking up, how do I build an online course? And then you're going to think about Teachable versus like LifterLMS. And it's like, oh, if I get LifterLMS, I'm going to have to use whatever WordPress is. And then you're going to learn about WordPress that way. So there's multiple ways to come into this. But I specifically started my WordPress experience with LifterLMS and WooCommerce. I didn't really learn WordPress before learning Lifter. I didn't learn WordPress before learning WooCommerce. I learned them at the same time. I was thinking, how do I create a fully customizable online course platform? And I'm using Lifter LMS. How do I do wild e-commerce websites? I'm using WooCommerce and Cartflows. That was what was available at the time. And so that was my experience coming in. And that's why I think a lot of younger people are not coming in to the WordPress ecosystem. But I think a lot of younger people who are 25 to 30, they are getting jobs building Wix sites, Squarespace websites, and then realizing that the capabilities they have in those areas are limited. And they're migrating to like creating Figma websites as designers, and then things like the Bricks Builder or Etch entice them in using their CSS designer knowledge into WordPress. So many ways that you could come into WordPress, but you probably didn't start at WordPress unless your mother was like working for a WordPress business. So I that's why I think it takes younger people a little bit longer to get into it. And ADHD and staying the course.
Well, ADHD is good in WordPress because there's like tens of thousands of plugins and themes and infinite customizability. You can spend an eternity exploring WordPress because it's so vast, right?
Yes, you can spend an eternity exploring WordPress, and there's a lot of noise coming your way, and so you have to figure out what exactly to focus on. And so with ADHD, it can be a superpower in that you lock in on certain things. Like I've used a lot of other LMSs other than Lifter, but I've used Lifter LMS more than I've used every other LMS combined. So I've really doubled down, and I've been fortunate to double down on Lifter LMS because it's just got so much customizability, so many features. Chris is a founder and owner, and that's something that's so rare to find in any business online, especially ones that have been around for over a decade. A lot of people get into online business and it's like super dry and super boring and it's super hard. And so basically they're trying to be like, hey, in 3 to 5 years, we're going to sell this thing. We're going to take it from the ground and we're going to sell it for $10 million. But when you have like a lifestyle brand, when you have founders and passionate community and people behind the products, and you specifically find the products people put their lives into, there's a level of interest and intrigue and fun that comes with that. And so I think part of staying the course is your passion, Chris. I imagine if you were to sell your company and leave WordPress, I might too. I'm literally following you. You're like actually like a leader to me to be in the industry and have your life in this. We talk about all kinds of things that aren't WordPress, like investing and personal stuff. And I see you as a leader in this industry. So literally, if you're going to sell out of the industry, I will too. I'm like, but I'm following your pilot light here.
I appreciate that. And that's the power of personal brand. And again, like the humanity on the internet, like choosing software isn't just choosing software, you're choosing the people behind the software. And if you take an interest in that, even from afar, like if you're not going to work at the company or anything, but you get into the people behind the company, that's the future. I shouldn't say that's the future, but in a world of AI, there's that whole human crafted thing of like, hey, check out this cool LMS I vibe coded over the weekend. And then you're getting clients, and then you find this LMS that has like a bunch of passionate people and community that have been there forever. That's a decision point. And yeah, it's super interesting. And you made some excellent points about younger people getting into WordPress. I think, first of all, there's so many more options. Like young kids want to be YouTubers when they grow up, my daughter included. And even me to agree. I still want to be a YouTuber when I grow up. But and now there's TikTok and Instagram and even WordPress got a lot of new users by writing, like having a public blog. But people tend to write less now or write less depth. They become podcasters, or the people that do write, they want to do like a Substack or Beehive newsletter and sell ad spots on it or sponsor spots and stuff. So there's just so much more competition that I think you're right. Is like, there is no easy way. People find it when they need to find it in their life, when whatever they have is not serving them. That's smart. And how to market that, especially like as WordPress, which doesn't have a centralized marketing department. It's just an interesting challenge. I don't have the exact solution. Otherwise, I would have put it out there already. Let's land the plane on WP Course Guide. Tell us about the ideal types of clients you work with and how they can get in touch with you.
The ideal types of clients I work with are a wide range of people, but specifically people who are stuck, frustrated, and confused and ready to get unstuck. I have a lot of expertise because I devote my life to this, is like a marketing, tech, strategy, and really just getting people unblocked. If you're blocked in copywriting, if you're blocked and you need a custom plugin, if you're blocked and you don't even know where to start with WordPress or how to put LifterLMS together or how to choose your host or how to connect your domain name to your host, you could be struggling with any of these things. I've spent a decade working on this stuff almost every single day. And so I can help you with a vast array of things. And so that's the people I work with, and you can reach out to me on wpcourseguide.com. You can Google it. You can Google Magic Emily Middleton. You'll find me one of those ways.
That's awesome. Go check wpcourseguide.com. There's a contact link right at the top. And I want to thank you for coming back on the show, Emily, and thank you for being part of the LifterLMS story. We really appreciate it. And that's a wrap for this episode of LMS Cast. Did you enjoy that episode? Tell your friends and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. And I've got a gift for you over at LifterLMS.com/gift. Go to LifterLMS.com/gift. Keep learning, keep taking action, and I'll see you in the next episode.